This is part 5 of my Metroid Other M rewrite. If you haven't seen the other parts or just need a refresher, I'd highly recommend going back and watching the other parts first. With that out of the way, let's begin. Samus returns to the beta station's residential zone, which has been overrun with enemies. Along the way, players will find some adversaries that appear to have already been felled. A sign that Adam is still alive, perhaps? Or more of the deleter's handiwork? Either way, there's no denying that Samus is well and truly alone now, with little choice but to keep pushing forward. After making her way further into the residential zone, Samus encounters Adam again, visor down and weapon drawn in preparation for combat. He lowers his gun upon seeing Samus, though, and briefly explains that he and Lyle were ambushed in the control room by hostiles wearing Federation armor. Samus asks if it was the Deleters, and Adam simply says that there is no way to be certain. Either way, he's abandoning the mission. His entire team is KIA, and there's no one left on the station to save. Samus tries to argue the point, stating that she saw a woman on the security feed, but Adam shuts her down. He claims that their own survival outweighs everything else. Their main priority should be making it back to the hangar and evacuating the station as soon as possible. Adam begins to make for the hangars, but Samus hangs back. While she doesn't want to risk losing Adam as well, the fact that he of all people would suddenly abandon the mission when there could still be survivors is extremely off to her. Adam turns to ask Samus if she's coming, to which she simply asks, "Aren't you going to ask if I have any objections?" Adam seems confused by this, and Samus immediately readies her arm cannon at him, demanding that he lift his visor. The imposter sighs, their voice suddenly changing to become more staticky and distorted.
You couldn't have made this easy for me, could you?
The fight begins with the Deleter tossing a flash grenade, allowing them a chance to escape from Samus's view. I'm imagining this to be a sort of stealth-based mini-boss, in which the Deleter moves around the ruins of the area to try and take Samus down. Obviously, they know that a single person is no match for Samus Aran in a direct fight, so instead they'll rely on pot shots, traps, maybe even some sort of cloaking unit to get around. Oh, and of course they'll sick other enemies on Samus as well. Bug masses, security drones, all just to keep her distracted. Fortunately, with the aid of the sonar, players will be able to locate their adversary even amidst the chaos. Eventually, the Deleter retreats after taking enough damage, running through a door and then locking it behind them. While the thought of giving chase is tempting, Samus has other priorities, finding the real Adam as well as the mysterious woman from the video feed. Samus continues to follow the trail until she eventually finds the woman in question, a researcher by the name of Madeline Bergman, who's hiding inside of one of the housing units. Okay, before we continue, we have to address the absolute nonsense that is the MB plotline. So buckle in, because there's a lot to cover in a relatively short amount of time. In the original Other M, the Federation created an AI based on Mother Brain to try and control the Metroid clones. This AI was then placed into an android resembling a young girl, for whatever reason, and basically got adopted by a researcher called Madeline Bergman. Madeline then gave the AI the name Melissa Bergman, though Melissa would later pretend to be Madeline when she initially meets Samus, only for Samus to later meet the real Madeline who could disprove that claim. Why Melissa even felt the need to lie about being Madeline in the first place, well, your guess is as good as mine. The name wouldn't have meant anything to Samus at the time anyways. So yes, the initials MB stand for Madeline Bergman, Melissa Bergman, and Mother Brain all at once. Though they're also technically kinda sorta their own thing, like a serial number or designation for the AI, I guess. Honestly, I have no idea what the intent here was. It sort of just comes off as another one of Other M's shallow attempts to be a lot deeper than it really is, contriving a mystery that isn't really a mystery that ultimately serves no purpose other than to further beat all the motherhood symbolism into your skull. So, with that out of the way, let's continue with the plot. Madeline initially mistakes Samus as a hired gun meant to silence her, but Samus eventually manages to calm her down and reassures Madeline that she means no harm. Samus claims that she's working with the 7th Platoon of the Galactic Federation, and her mission is to investigate the goings-on of the station and rescue any survivors. Madeline is confused by this, and claims that the Federation are the ones who were trying to kill her. After a brief back and forth, Madeline introduces herself properly as one of the lead researchers on the station. She goes on to explain that the Beta Station was created for the purpose of researching and developing new weapons, including those of questionable legality. Samus, of course, is less than pleased to hear this, though this revelation certainly tracks with everything that she's seen up until that point. Madeline continues, claiming that she initially saw her work as a means of combating growing threats like the Space Pirates or the Kraken Empire. However, once Madeline saw the monstrosities that were being created aboard the station with her research, she realized what a horrible mistake she had made. Madeline attempted to reason with her superiors, but to no avail. Ultimately, she resorted to desperate measures, attempting to sabotage the ship's onboard AI that was responsible for overseeing the 5 sectors. Unfortunately, since that wasn't her area of expertise, Madeline had to return to her daughter Melissa for help. Melissa, as it happens, was also a researcher aboard the station. Where Madeline specialized in cybernetics and hard machinery, Melissa was more skilled in programming and software. Together, they managed to sabotage the ship's AI as planned, causing its safety protocols to temporarily malfunction. During this period, Madeline would release a few specimens from containment, with the intention being to have them rampage through a remote area of the ship before they were contained. Madeline had hoped to avoid casualties and keep the damage purely collateral. Once the ship's AI was back to its full functionality, it could handle the rogue weapons. The point of this exercise was simply meant to serve as a wake-up call, both to Madeline's superiors and her fellow scientists, as to just how dangerous their creations were. However, something went wrong. When the ship's AI came back online, the security systems went wild, attacking everything but the rogue specimens. Melissa tried to get to the ship's central mainframe in the hopes of restoring the AI manually, but Madeline has neither seen nor heard from her daughter since. In desperation, the surviving crew members sent out an SOS beacon, knowing full well that doing so would lead to the discovery of their illegal activities. The Federation, not wanting to risk their own shady dealings being exposed, sent in groups of specialized soldiers to contain the threat, secure any assets that could still be secured, and dispose of any witnesses who might leak such sensitive information to the public. The soldiers in question are, of course, the Deleters. What the Federation likely didn't anticipate, however, was that the transmission would also be picked up by the 7th Platoon and Samus herself. Adam, his team, and the bounty hunter had all become a liability. Thus, the Deleters were given a new mission before leaving the station: dispose of these interlopers by any means necessary. With all the pieces now in place, Samus comes to a resolution about what she must do. She knows the truth of the Beta Station now, but her mission objective remains the same. Thus, she swears to assist Madeline in escaping the station, as well as to help her find Melissa. Most of all, though, Samus intends to make sure that no one can get their hands on any of the illegal research being developed here. Madeline swears to help Samus in any way she can, but before the two can discuss matters further, they're interrupted by the Deleters. Players will have to fend off these assailants while keeping Madeline safe. Yes, it's going to be something of an escort mission, which I know is not something that's usually looked upon favorably. However, I don't believe the concept of escort missions is inherently bad. Madeline will do her best to keep out of the action, occasionally taking pot shots with a weapon she found lying around, while Samus deals with the Deleters directly. Again, they're not individually a match for the galaxy's greatest bounty hunter, but these enemies would still be packing the best tech and training the Federation can give them. I envision the Deleters working in unison to overwhelm Samus with numbers, but once one of them takes enough damage, they're forced to fall back and those numbers dwindle. Eventually, once the deleters are dealt with, Samus and Madeline flee the scene together. Both women understand that it won't be long before more assassins are on their trail. It's a race against the clock now to reach the Master Control Room and bring an end to these experiments, all while ensuring they aren't swept under the rug as more collateral by the Federation's deleters. And that's where we're going to end things off for now. I know the progress on this series has been very slow going, but we're finally nearing the end. So, please join me next time for the finale of my Metroid Other M rewrite. Until next time, stay bright.